Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we're live
And we're live.
again.
Here we are.
It's becoming a weekly reoccurrence.
Becoming. We've done becoming. I don't know where you've been. We've done plenty of these. The takeaway.
First of all, I want to compliment you. You look like
finally.
you are sitting in a big
Oh,
throne
I
chair.
thought you were gonna forget. Yeah. So check out. Dude, you put the takeaways on YouTube. Right?
Absolutely.
I look like I'm the commander of the Enterprise.
Almost like Game of Thrones.
No, let's go Star Trek. But if you look, I can put my hands up like this, right? Right. I give it all you got, Scotty. And look, I can even do the. Oh God, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I could do the like we're under attack. Right? Maybe shake the desk a little bit. We're under attack.
We just lost all 10,000 listeners.
Now, if that's all it took, they weren't very dedicated.
Hey,
listen.
by the way, your calendar looks extremely empty behind you. Are you available
See,
all month
I'm
long?
available all month long. Yeah, everything's pretty much wide open.
Pretty much. There's nothing on it.
Hey, well, first of all, this is your office, so I don't know what you've got going on. I do everything on my phone. I'm booked up. That's your calendar behind me. Listen, I'm extra special goofy right now because I'm super inspired by the conversation we just had. A great conversation with Professor Leonardo Xavier. And if you don't know who he is, I always say this, if you don't know who he is, if you don't know who she is, definitely check him out. But this gentleman has a extremely unique outlook on jiu-jitsu where it is today because of where he's come from. He's been doing it for 30 years, 30 plus. And when you hear the names of who he's trained with and who was on the mat with him when he got his black belt, I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is. And if you know the history at all of jiu-jitsu, it's going to blow your mind.
And if you don't, you should listen to Robert Drives, the episode who talks about history of Jiu-Jitsu. But I think what's really interesting here, so we're calling this takeaway as a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really appropriate, really right on target when fully reflecting of what Leo was talking about. The way how he sees Jiu-Jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Is beyond the physical aspect, is beyond the mental stimulation. It is truly a spiritual way of living. It's all about the full life. It's all about connecting with your students. It's all about carrying yourself in a certain way to achieve a certain level of excellence.
Yeah, excellence, I think, is part of it. And geez, you know what? I wrote something down doing the research on him that we didn't talk about, and I want to read it real quick. I know people hate when people read on air, but too bad.
It's your show. You go for
it. It is. That's right. And we lost all those listeners when I did that stupid Star Trek thing, so nobody's listening anyway. But he said, knowing an arm lock or any other technique does not make you a jiu-jitsu practitioner. A jiu-jitsu practitioner is someone who lives by a code of conduct, philosophy, concepts, and principles. It is about tradition, a culture, and a mindset. And we didn't get to talk about it, but it's funny that it came full circle. That I think is very appropriate for the takeaway. That it's really this old school philosophy about this art that we do, and he does look at it from an art aspect rather than just a sport or an athletic aspect.
What's your view on this? You've been on the mats for a few years now. And today art or today jiu-jitsu is being often is being presented as a sport. as a hobby, as a you know, a getaway, if you will. It's something to get your mind off of your daily activities, and you know, place to meet people, place to hang out with people, and maybe along the way to learn some jujitsu.
Okay.
What's your view on this?
I think that's fine if you go into it with that mindset. It can be a hobby. It's expanded so much, right, over the years, even since I've been doing it. Um, that's okay, but you're not really learning the art itself. You're just learning some techniques. You're having fun. You're a hobbyist, and that's fine. We've had extremely high level people on this show say that's okay, you know. Um, but I think if you really truly want to understand it as an art, well, then you have to learn all the fundamentals. You have to figure out the foundation. You have to learn the history. I mean, it was a few years. I remember somebody that used to attend the academy was like, "How do you not know who this person is?" And I took it kind of as a slight, but since reflecting, since then, it's like, you know what? If I really want to understand this, what I'm doing here, well, then I should know who that person is, and I should understand the history of it, because I think it opens you up to the importance of what we do, and why we do it. You know, it takes some of those cliches that jujitsu saves lives or changes lives, and it gives them real meaning. They're not cliches anymore. Um, and it turns what you do here on the mats into a way of life rather than, like I said just a minute ago, a hobby. you know you mess around on the guitar at home and you can play a couple songs. That's great. It's a hobby. You're not really a guitar player. You're not a master of that instrument. And until you learn all those things, I think, that I just said, it applies the same way: the history, the foundation, the fundamentals. If you don't put in the time and effort to do all of that, then it's just a hobby, and that's all right, but it's not a way of life.
So, what would you define as way of life?
When it comes to jujitsu,
Yeah.
take learning all the things I just talked about, and also taking what you learn on the mat, no matter what level you're at, what your skill set is at, and taking those home with you. This is a good, it's one of those things you hear often in life: don't take it home with you. Work, school, whatever, you don't take it home with you. This is what you should take home with you, because you can take it home, you can apply it to every other aspect of your life, and probably make you a better person because of it,
For those
if you
who,
analyze it.
well, for those who don't know what you mean by this, can you define what do you mean by take it home with you? Like go and choke your wife out?
Oh, geez, I wish. No.
I Margaret, my
uh,
apology. There was an opening and
no,
he took it.
I'll always take that shot. Absolutely. Um, no, I think what I mean by that is take the problem solving skills, take the what you just learned about yourself. And I mean, you have to analyze it, because you might be in a plateau where you're like, I suck at this. Why am I doing it? Don't take that home with you. Take home I just survived. I just battled through something. I learned something about myself. I learned a technique. I applied that technique. I lived in the moment. I had put myself in outside my comfort zone. I put myself in dangerous situations, and I came out on top. Just by doing it, I think you come out on top. It doesn't mean that you tap somebody out. It doesn't mean that you demolished everybody every round. It just means that you grew as a human being while you spent time on the mat, and you need to take that part of it home with you.
But what satisfaction do we have with them? I mean, when we get on the mat, there are these anchor points which give us this dopamine rush. Like, I mean, we tap somebody, we cuss somebody, we achieve this
Yeah, it's
pass,
cool.
we did all these things. You did
Yep.
flying berimbolo with 3
No, you didn't.
somersaults. What?
No, you didn't.
but but in all seriousness, if we're looking for such a deep meaning of this art,
Mhm.
should we not be looking at the other points of engagement, like submitting our partner or passing the guard or achieving these positions?
Well, why are you doing it though? Are you submitting them because you want to be the baddest dude on the mat? Are you submitting them so that you can, talk shit later? Are you, why are you doing it? I think is the most important part. And if you're doing it for those reasons, if you're doing it for the Instagram likes, then that's cool, that's great. But you know what? You probably won't be doing it in 20 years, 25 years. You're not gonna. I just think that's a superficial way to look at it. I think the better way to look at it, those taps will come. Submitting somebody will come if you invest, take the time, and do things for the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely onto something. I mean, it all adding up all together and collecting the thoughts from the conversation and from what you are saying right now. It appears as there's two different ways of looking at this. You can learn a skill, kind of quickly execute it, and it will give you this instant pleasure of achieving the simple goal. Or you can find this as a, for lack of better term, way of life. Find this and look at this as really a way of a long term self discovery and learning things and really achieving some of these skill sets in a very, very long term aspect.
Mhm.
And that's how you shape. Is by far probably, well, I think it is not as satisfying, at least not immediately, right? It's a by far longer process, by far more difficult. But the flip side is that it's a long-term process, which means odds of that carrying on long term are by far higher, right? It was
Yeah, I
something.
think so.
It was something interesting that Leo mentioned mid episode. He said, when he was having a conversation with Hickson, and he was telling Hickson, that this knowledge was like a book of knowledge. He got this book that first he was looking through the book and he saw the pictures, right? And it was like, oh, this is cool. This is what I'm going to learn. And then he started reading the book and he realizes the book is quote unquote in different language. So you can, what did he say? You can try to piece it all together from the pictures and random words that or you can learn the language and translate the book and really understand of what this whole thing is all about on a much deeper level.
Yeah, and when you do that, I think that like anything else, when you truly understand it, I said it earlier, you can start applying it to your life. This book of knowledge that he's talking about wasn't a book of just jujitsu techniques. No, it was something that he took on spiritually, and that he brought with him we're not talking literally, but he brought with him everywhere he went, right? Once he finally understood all these things, and he said it was kind of like starting over. What do you ask yourself why you started in the first place? Right. And if you started just to be a badass and tap people out and because it looks cool, well, that's not a way of life. That's pretty superficial. But if you started to learn, if you started to open up to new things, to step outside your comfort zone, to challenge yourself, well, then you're making it bigger than just a hobby, than just something you're dabbling in, and it does become a way of life for you. And I don't mean that you're at the academy 7 days a week, training twice a day. I mean that it's just something that envelops you and that you carry with you, and that touches your life in a way that a lot of those superficial things don't. It gives it meaning.
I'm telling you guys, this was deep. This whole episode was deep, not only from philosophy perspective, but just the little golden nuggets that Leo shared all throughout the episode. And well, I just had a visual of his belt.
Yes.
And if you're not following us on YouTube, I strongly recommend you to actually take a peek and look at the video version of this episode.
Yeah.
simply because he is sharing his black belt, which is not black anymore. And it's
No.
very interesting to really actually see that. It's not only part of history, but it personally for me, it allowed me to really connect the dots. I mean, this is the guy who literally was the right hand of Hickson Gracie and Hoyler Gracie. Like he hung out with them on daily basis. He witnessed the classes. It's just
Yeah,
amazing,
he's a
amazing
rookie.
stories.
Yeah. Check it out. I've seen one other black belt that was close to looking like that, Miguel's and Miguel Torres's belt. But I don't know. Professor Leonardo might have him beat. I mean, that thing was tattered.
Yeah,
Tattered.
that's crazy.
Yeah. And it carries a lot of weight. Listen to the episode. He talks about the things that are truly meaningful to him in his life. And it's not the things that he wears around his neck, and it's not the things that he won. It's those life lessons he learned and the people he learned them from.
Well, I know for sure I'm doing privates with him the moment I get the opportunity. The endless amount of knowledge that this guy has, I need to tap into some of that. Anyhow, let's wrap up for today. Great work on this, Gary. Good job. You're like almost like a real podcaster by now. In a big chair and with the empty calendar.
Leonardo said he was a white belt in podcasting at the beginning of the episode. Maybe if I'm lucky, I'm a purple belt now.
Well,
we'll find out.
At least you're not as cranky as you were in the beginning, so that's a good news.
It's getting late. I still haven't had dinner, so we better wrap this up, or you're going to see it's going to turn into a shit show. So, all right.
I will talk to you soon.
Peace.
Off to the next one.
Take care.
Later.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.